floating out at sea, stranded. Several countries denied them access, and we were hesitant here at one point in our own country to figure out what can we do. This is America. We've never left anybody alone. We've never turned our backs on our own members in the armed services and first responders or any aspect in our community. And we didn't want to start that here in Broward County. I was fortunate to have a conversation with our county commissioners and our mayor about operating tempo and things that we can do to partner up with Carnival Cruise Line to get these people in. And so yesterday we launched that operation. We took the sick off first. We were able to transport those folks over to definitive care to make sure they got the treatment that they needed. The second phase of the operation took place later at night, where we were allowing people to be able to disembark and check in with CBP as per their protocols. And then starting this morning, early about 0800, we started to do the transportation aspect of getting folks off the cruise ship into buses and then transported over to the airport so that they can board charter flights that were already established for them and get them to their respective homes. We've been having a lot of success. Fortunately, we have not had any major hiccups or anything to that to the degree that would slow us down or our progress. And I will tell you, the people on the ships have been extremely supportive. They have been extremely in compliance with the things that we put forth. They just want to get home. And so we're going to continue this. This third leg of the operation may take place a little bit later on in the day. We're anticipating that we're probably going to roll into tomorrow, where we'll be able to complete this entire operation and continue to perform our services. It's been imperative for all the personnel that's been participating in this to self-guard themselves, wear their personal protection equipment, make sure that they were complying with all the CDC protocols, and that includes every single one of our employees that are out here. I'll close with that aspect and take some questions if you have them related to the operation. Yes, the question is, if you didn't hear, is what's causing the delay out here now. Just a little bit of logistics behind how many personnel were scheduled to actually go onto the buses and to be transported over to the tarmac for deployment aspects onto the flights. But this is just nothing major, no complications, just a matter of personnel moving parts around. You got to remember, we're at an airport right now. There's still some federal regulations in terms of flight and things of that nature, but they'll be on their way pretty soon. Anything else?
Sheriff, a lot of folks are concerned about your deputies, of course, being exposed.
Sure.
Can you provide an update as to how many positive cases we have in your ranks? And then what happened last night at command center with call center?
With the call center?
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with the first part of your question in terms of personnel. Thank you for asking about us and caring. We currently have roughly 13 employees who have tested positive for the COVID-19 virus. That's a cross-section of our agency. Some firefighters, some law enforcement, some civilians. Fortunately, we start to see a good portion return back to duty. When we did self-isolation for those who may have been exposed in the sense that they were in contact with somebody while in the course of their duties, we ended up doing self-isolation for about 200 employees. About 150 of them are already coming back into the system. But look, this is something that we know is a real threat to us. We anticipate, regardless of how much more equipment that we put in terms of personal protection equipment wearing on a daily basis, that we're probably going to have more increased numbers.
And central dispatch?
And then as far as central dispatch goes, there were several concerns that were coming out in the community emails that we got. Our dispatch center is taking the same protocols that we take in terms of daily screening when our personnel comes in. And so if someone's exhibiting any type of signs or symptoms, their temperature's over, they've talked about they're not feeling good, they have a fever, anything to that degree, then we'll pull them out of the service aspect. There was no major hardships or anything that occurred in communications other than the fact that we had to look at how we were going to rotate people out and make sure that they were having the necessary equipment when we started doing decontamination on those sites. And we've done that on every single one of our PSAPs where all our communication folks are operating. We have 3. We've done all the decontamination, we've done the cleansing, we set the protocols up. So we're consistent not only in one PSAP, but all of them, and that applies to our district. I mean, look, I'm even going through, the checks and balances aspect like everyone else, and this is part of our daily process.
So there's no one sick at central dispatch?
As of right now, no. We've had several different employees and stuff that talked about, the signs and symptoms during the checking process, but we haven't extracted anyone out and said that, okay, this person's either tested positive for COVID-19 or they need to be removed.
Sheriff, can you talk about from your role as part of the the Coral Princess, what's the status? I know it's showing that it's supposed to get here at 12:15 tomorrow, but then the court said that it may not be coming or it may not arrive tomorrow.
Yeah, that's still up in the air. There's 2 folds to how these missions are operating, so I'll take a minute. When we're looking at all the ships that are out sea, the command element that's in Unified Command is our Coast Guard commander, is Captain Bourdain. She will analyze and look as to whether or not these ships are reporting or having any type of serious medical conditions or things what we would consider a red flag in terms of, do we need to delay it? Do we need to extract or medevac somebody off the ship? Or what is the protocol going to be if we allow it to dock and come in? And so we're still in that discussion phase, and we're not there to determine whether or not if there's a no or a yes as to whether or not they'll be coming in.
Will it be kind of going through the same procedure that we just went through?
It's too early to make that conclusion. We've set up kind of a template should the county decide to bring ships in additionally, but we're not at that point where they've even made a decision because the Coast Guard has to make the determination first.
So it's not certain if they'll even come into Fort Lauderdale?
Correct. It's still early on that side.
From what I understand, there's 12 cases that have been confirmed out there.
I haven't heard the update as of yet. Mm-hmm.
The ships that came in yesterday, did you find that there was more sick people than first anticipated, or was it what the cruise line
No,
said?
you know, we anticipated that the numbers may not be accurate because things were changing so fluidly, but fortunately the reporting figures that we got were accurate, and that's a good thing. I think that shows a good sign that, one, the cruise industry were forthcoming with what we needed to hear, and then also that there wasn't anything that caught us blindsided that was going to further impact the medical, the healthcare system here. Broward Health has been outstanding talking to their presidents. The hats off to them to be willing to open up the beds and take on those responsibilities while still managing, you know, enough room to handle our own people in terms of residents here in Broward County. Any other questions?
Can you address
Update just came in for total number of employees is now at 20.
positive
Thank you. Yes. Positive confirmation. Anything else?
Can you address inmates and correctional personnel?
Sure. Sure. So his question is, can I address I'm repeating it because it's so noisy out here. In terms of inmate personnel, we have a total of 3 inmates that has tested positive for COVID-19. That's across several of our different jails, so it's not all isolated in one area. And we've gone through the quarantine process, lockdown aspects to make sure that we don't minimize that spread aspect for any one that the inmate may have encountered. Fortunately for us, we have a tracking mechanism in place where we can visually look on our video cameras, on our bookings and our logs to determine, hey, this inmate was in contact with this one, and that's how we've set it up to where we have a quarantine measure in place right now. We've also looked at going into with our medical partners that are already there with WellPath to make sure that we actually go through a whole decontamination aspect for where those areas were impacted. In addition to that, we already backtracked and analyzed all of our employees who had contact with each and every one of those inmates. And so now they're going to be in self-isolation period for sake of due diligence and making sure we're not spreading it to our employees or further spreading this out to our inmates. Sure. Anything else? Excellent. Thank you all for coming out.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Mm-hmm.